This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Hey, are you looking to avoid hours in the kitchen and skip a hefty restaurant bill? Stick around until the end of this video to learn about an awesome new meal delivery service, Cook Unity. You know, even for someone like me who covers these things on a daily basis, it's always at the front of my mind, top of my mind, whatever the side of my mind that it is. It never ceases to amaze me, the lies and the hypocrisy and the projection of the Republican Party. Cries about widespread voter fraud and the stealing of elections wasn't a thing until Donald Trump came along. And he prefaced the 2016 election by talking about how the system is rigged, it's rigged, everything's rigged. And then in 2020, he did it again, talking about if I lose, it will have been rigged. And then when he did lose, then proceeded to convince a wide swath of America that the election was rigged, that he was cheated, that he indeed won, and Biden didn't win by 7+ million votes. It obviously, as we well know, culminated in an attempt to overthrow the United States government, to reinsert Donald Trump extra-constitutionally, extra-democratically into office. No mechanism by which has been laid out by anyone would make it legal to redo the election or just have Biden step aside and have Donald Trump take. It's absolute nonsense and anti-democracy. It was an attempt to overthrow the United States government by overturning a free and fair settled American election. Having said all that, every single time we hear about actual voter fraud taking place, it seems to be from Republicans. Sometimes party leaders, and that's what I'm going to get to today. A man who was the vice chairman of the Republican Party of Georgia has now been busted for voting illegally, not once or twice or 3 times, 9 times. 9 times. Here's the headline from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Judge rules Georgia Republican Party's vice chairman voted illegally. Brian K. Pritchard voted 9 times while serving probation for felony forgery charges. Now, that's another matter. We will set that aside for a later day. The criminality that is rampant in the Republican Party, with no accountability whatsoever. When a Democrat finds themselves in trouble, that's a little passive, finds themselves in trouble. When a Democrat, let's say Menendez from New Jersey, does something criminal, allegedly criminal, and finds themselves under indictment, they go the way of the dinosaur, metaphorically speaking. They're no longer in power. They at the very least have their committee stripped. But it's a different standard for Republicans. This guy's a convicted felon, a forger of checks, and he's still on probation, still settling with society for his wrong, and he's put in charge as the vice chairman of the Republican Party. Remember, the party of law and order. Here's the article. A judge ruled Wednesday that the Georgia Republican Party's first vice chairman, Brian K. Pritchard, violated state election laws when he voted 9 times while serving probation for a felony check forgery sentence. Pritchard, a conservative talk show host, must pay a $5,000 fine and receive a public reprimand from the state election board, according to a decision by administrative law judge Lisa Boggs. Pritchard has previously alleged the 2020 election was fraudulent on his show, but now he has been found to have voted illegally. Recounts, court cases, and investigations over the past 3.5 years have consistently debunked fraud claims and upheld the 2020 election results. Pritchard has said he didn't do anything wrong and thought he had completed his probation before voting in Georgia, but that didn't convince the judge in the case. Quote, "The court does not find the respondent's explanations credible or convincing," Boggs wrote in her 25-page decision. At the very least, even if the court accepts he did not know about his felony sentences, the record before this court demonstrates that he should have known. Pritchard declined to comment on Wednesday about the judge's ruling. Now, this is not your ordinary case of someone who's just, I thought the paperwork didn't go through and I'm no longer a felon. My record was expunged or the conviction was quashed or whatever. This is a guy who was still on felony probation. The sentence had not yet been completed, and he's voting not once, not twice, not 9 times. The fine is also a bit of a joke. We'll get to that eventually here. Pritchard registered to vote in Georgia in 2008 and cast ballots in 9 elections before his probation was over, according to election records presented in court. Pritchard pleaded guilty in 1996 to forgery and theft charges involving $38,000 worth of checks that he deposited while working on a construction job, according to records from Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. Pritchard acknowledged that he endorsed and deposited a check made out with someone else's name, but he said he didn't profit and the construction companies involved were repaid. It sounds like Donald Trump's fraud excuses. Oh, nobody was harmed, no victim, no banks were harmed. In fact, everybody made out great. It was awesome. No crime, no crime. His probation initially lasted 3 years, but Pennsylvania judges repeatedly extended it until 2011 on allegations Pritchard failed to pay restitution, court records showed. Pritchard maintained that he didn't know the money and he thought the case was resolved. Attorneys for the state said in court that Pritchard knew he was still serving his sentence because records show he appeared in Pennsylvania court for probation revocation hearings in 1999, 2002, and 2004. Pritchard denied that he was present in court in 2002 or 2004. They're just so bad at this. They're so bad at everything, but criminality, criminals aren't known to be the smartest among us, but come on. Last 2 paragraphs here. Quote, when he came to Georgia, he was aware that he was registering to vote illegally. He knew when he went in all 9 times and signed the voter certificate, he was voting illegally, Senior Assistant Attorney General Russell Willard said during closed arguments in February. And then final paragraph here, the judge, and this is the ridiculous part, this is, how can we expect when there is no consequence whatsoever to actually hold people accountable for their crimes, for their knowing crimes, when this is the consequence that they get. The judge fined Pritchard $500 for each of the 9 times he voted illegally, plus another $500 for his illegal voter registration. Pritchard can appeal the decision. It's always something, isn't it? It's always Republicans. They whine and they cry and they complain and they wail their crocodile tears about voter fraud, about stolen elections, and then time again, it's Republicans committing the crime that they're accusing everyone else of, Democrats especially. Anyway, what do you think? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always, daily@dollemore.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you're into it, support this work, click the join button below, become a channel member for $2 a month. You can do so on my Patreon page as well. $2 a month, patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Now stick around for a word and an offer from today's sponsor, Cook Unity. Many of you guys know that I love to cook, but I don't have the time for it most days. I sure love eating out too, but doing that every single night is neither time nor cost effective. What's the middle ground between hours spent in the kitchen and hundreds of dollars spent eating out? It's Cook Unity. Cook Unity is different than all those other food delivery programs. It's the first chef-to-you service that delivers locally sourced meals right to your front door. Every meal is handcrafted by award-winning chefs in local micro kitchens, which feels great to support instead of buying food plopped out by a machine somewhere in some giant Tyson factory in Arkansas or Idaho. To experience chef-quality meals every week delivered right to your door, head to cookunity.com/Jesse or enter code Jesse just before you check out to score 50% off of your first week. I just tried their shrimp and grits last night and was very impressed with the quality of the grits, nice and cheesy, chunky bits of corn in there. It was great. But that's just one option. CookUnity has hundreds of healthy and delicious dishes to choose from and 7 different dietary preferences to work within. Those options are constantly updated and all meals are posted 2 full weeks in advance to allow you plenty of time to take your pick. CookUnity's food arrives fresh, never frozen in packaging that allows it to keep for up to a week, and their packaging is compostable, recyclable, or reusable, which is awesome. I personally try to avoid takeout due to all the waste that it obviously creates. Eat fancy without having to foot a hefty bill. Go to cookunity.com/Jesse or enter code Jesse before checkout for 50% off of your order that week. That's half off your first week simply by clicking the link in the description below.